Hello, everyone. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns, or as the housing bubble continues to grow. Is it going to burst anytime soon? We're not too sure. A lot of things going on here, a lot of headwinds, creating some chaos in the housing industry. So much information out there. I'm Randy Patrick, your host, putting the realism back into real estate. All right. I think that's important to have realism in there for sure. Again, I could do probably a video, at least one or two videos a day on different real estate topics because so much is going on. And quite frankly, I'm a little over and out and done with respect to all this stuff going on. I've figured out my focus, I'm working towards it, and I'm happy knowing what's going to happen in the future. Hopefully, I can share that with you today. And by the way, if you're not already a subscriber, if you could certainly help my channel grow and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. Why? Because as I mentioned, we put the realism in real estate, we debunk what's going on out there, and we try to put a real perspective on what's happening in the marketplace. Don't listen and don't read all the headlines that you see. Delve into it and figure out what's going on for yourself. All right, having said all that, the reason why today is an important video because it's go time. That's right, it's go time. If you're not looking at real estate, what's going to happen in the next little while, you better get your head out of the sand and start to listen and learn and figure out what's going to happen in the marketplace because it's going to hit us faster than we think and stuff's going to happen that we can't predict or maybe we're not aware of at this point in time. So today is the 4th of August. It's going to be a longer video today just because we've got a lot to talk about. I haven't had a video out for over a week now, and it's time that I regroup and get back into this because I can tell you that things are changing. I can feel it in the air. I can see it with respect to what's happening in the marketplaces. And, we all know what's happening in the fall, and I think there's, we'll start to see some increased scrutiny and interest in real estate as that time comes towards the election. So I'm sure we're going to see some of that. All right. Why am I talking go time here? Well, basically, we're going to talk about foreclosures today, all right? And for me, I was having some difficulty trying to figure out where things are headed and the volume of foreclosures. So, our friends at ATTOM Data Solutions recently, past couple of weeks, put out a couple of reports, some information as to what's going on in the world of foreclosures, delinquencies, defaults, whatever. So they, as you can see in mid-July, they released their mid-year 2020 U.S. foreclosure market report, which shows there was a total of 165,000 properties with foreclosure filings, default notices, scheduled auctions, or bank repossessions in the first 6 months of 2020, down 44% from the same time period a year ago, and down 54% from the same time period 2 years ago. So I look at this, I go, okay, well, that's a really big drop. 44 and 54% year over year and year over 2 years ago. What's going on? I think we can all figure it out, though. Listen, they have to talk about it. The news is the news. So really, almost 100,000 U.S. properties started the foreclosure process in the first 6 months of 2020, down 44% from a year ago to the lowest 6-month total going back to the second half of 2005, the earliest data that was available. If we go back to 2005, that was just before we peaked in value, and that was just before 2000, we'll call it 7 and 8, as things crumbled, where we had mortgage meltdown, subprime mortgage crisis, we had foreclosures going on, property values hit the peak, sliding down. So again, this is just before 2005. We're sort of, I guess you could say, getting towards our peak value. So counter to the national trend. So the national trend right now is we're seeing a decrease in foreclosure filings and activity. So there's a reason for that. We'll get to in a second. So the national trend is decreasing, but counter to the national trend, 3 states posted year-over-year increases in foreclosure starts, including Tennessee, Idaho, and Indiana. States that saw an annual decrease included Florida, New Jersey, Illinois, Georgia, California. Kind of your top 5 or 6 or out of the 10 states that always are up there. They saw decreases, where Tennessee, Idaho, and Indiana saw increases, which I felt was kind of interesting. Now, again, why is there a national trend going down? Well, guess what? I think we know why. This just goes to show you, when they did some analysis going back to 2008, you can see the amount of foreclosure filings in the first half of the year, and you can see how our year 2020, we've got nothing. We're so low, all right? Well, maybe because what? We had something called coronavirus, COVID-19. So Delaware, New Jersey, Illinois post highest state of foreclosure rates. Nationwide, 0.12% of all housing units, 1 out of 824, had a foreclosure filing in the first half of 2020. States with the highest rates in the first half were Delaware, New Jersey, Illinois, Maryland, and Connecticut. Other states in the first half rates were among the 10 highest nationwide were South Carolina, Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, and Georgia. So again, as we sort of round out sort of, the top 10-ish there, the usual players are sort of in that top 10. All right. But as we go forward and start talking about this, we'll learn more. The top 10 U.S. metros with highest foreclosure rates. Now, again, rates are being foreclosure, like housing units per filing. So, and again, so it can be skewed. So Peoria, Illinois, had one of the, highest rates because they had lots of filings and they have less houses there. So you can see Illinois, California, Pennsylvania, Texas, Mobile, Alabama, Maryland, Pennsylvania again, New York, New Jersey, California, some locations there. Again, not that interesting based on the size, but this is where we find out why. Of course, the residential foreclosure market across the nation continues to contract, and a combination of a booming housing market conditions before the current coronavirus pandemic hit and a moratorium on activity while the country struggles to overcome the crisis. Basically, that's why we're having such low filings, and that's why we're seeing decreases, not increases, based on the fact that there's a moratorium. So basically, the foreclosure starts and completions were already declining rapidly last year because the housing market and the economy were riding so high. Now they're down to lows not seen for the last 15 years, as the federal government banned lenders from pursuing the most delinquent loans until at least the end of August 2020, which is coming up, to help people weather the pandemic. Distressed property volume is almost guaranteed to increase significantly once the moratorium is lifted, because millions of Americans missed their mortgage payments in June and will continue to because of unemployment. But for now, everything is on hold, and the foreclosure numbers reflect that pause. So this is the reason why. We all know it, but now it's, we're being told this, in black and white here. There you go. So again, I look at this going, okay, I'm going to talk about it because they're talking about it. We know why nothing much is happening, because we are under a foreclosure sale and eviction moratorium. And besides the foreclosure sales, a lot of the lenders aren't even bothering to start foreclosures for people who are in a position to start. Also, if say you're in a foreclosure case or you're in the process, but you don't have a sale date set yet, well, they're not pushing those cases forward, because if they set a sale date and it gets pushed off because of the moratorium, what's the point in doing that? So we're in a situation now where it's almost like a geyser or a volcano. Everything's bubbling, it's slowly growing under pressure, and once the moratorium releases, we're going to see a lot of activity coming at us in a short period of time. So, but again, just to make sure we're clear, this is not because housing's phenomenal and wages have caught up with housing prices, et cetera, et cetera. This is because no one's processing foreclosures and evictions at the moment here, or very few are actually happening. All right. One thing to note, though, too, and this is just I found was an interesting slide, the average days to complete a foreclosure. And this sort of ebbs and flows, but we're down to about 685 average days to complete a foreclosure. And I got to tell you that, if you look, a couple of years ago, the average was over 1,000 days. So we're going to see, the average time frame come down. Certain states have certain processing, we'll call it, systems or ways based on how the courts work and everything. Some states are faster, that are called trustee states. Some states are slower, which are called judicial states. So it all averages out. But even on the judicial states, the past year I saw a significant, like we'll call it, decrease in overall time, which is an increase in speed of how they want to process. So people who think they can live in their houses for X number of years are going to get a rude awakening, because the court systems and lenders aren't going to be wasting time anymore. They're going to push as fast as they can to take it to their foreclosure and all the way through. Just a comment here, because this was part of it. We talked about the first half of the year, but they also had some June activity. So basically, nationwide in June, one in almost every 15,000 properties had a foreclosure filing. States with the highest rates in June were Maryland, New Mexico, Delaware, New Jersey, and South Carolina. So, clearly we have some, I guess you could say, foreclosure activity going on, but it's not like it used to be, all right, just because of everything that's being slowed down. Only less than 5,000 U.S. properties started the foreclosure process in June, up 12% from the previous month, but down 80% from a year ago. And why I say June is up a little bit because we had some relaxation in some of the shutdowns. So I'm sure some of the court systems and some of the lenders were back at work. And that's why, we saw a 12% increase from, May, which, because everything was shut down pretty much in May. And we still see an 80% decrease from a year ago because they're just they're not there to accept or process or do those filings. There you go. Lenders completed the foreclosure process in only 2,500 properties in June, down 12% from the previous month. Okay, and completed the foreclosure process would mean to me we took it to sale. So it went to either sold at the third party at an auction to a third party bidder, or they took it back at the auction themselves. So down 12% from the previous month, clearly. Okay, and because of shutdowns and everything, and down 76% from a year ago, same thing. All right, so just again, a lot of the foreclosure sales that were scheduled over later half of March, April, May, June, July, and August have been postponed. All right, so simple as that. That's why we have all this slowdown. No surprises there. And again, look at the metros with the highest foreclosure rates for June: Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania, a couple of locations in California, Maryland, the Baltimore area, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Trenton, New Jersey, Florence, South Carolina. So, the California ones we're going to see because of their sheer volume. Illinois is there. Texas is going to be there. We're going to see, in eastern seaboards, New Jersey, South Carolina, Florence. I've been there. Okay, so, it's just, you're going to see this type of stuff. Nothing surprises me with these stats at this point in time. Now, they also released another report about a week ago saying foreclosure. Let me just lay the groundwork here. So obviously we just spoke about how foreclosure activity is just slowing down to basically a crawl, right? Well, now they've come out and said, okay, residential foreclosure activity could easily double over the coming year. So they have a best and worst case scenario, et cetera, et cetera. So this is interesting. Again, ATTOM Data Solutions. And what they're saying here is that the United States faces a possible foreclosure surge over the coming months that could more than double the number of households threatened with eviction for not paying their mortgages, an offshoot of the worldwide coronavirus pandemic. And basically, amid projections that high unemployment connected to the pandemic will worsen, an analysis by ATTOM Data Solutions shows that anywhere from about 225,000 to 500,000 homeowners across the country could face possible foreclosure throughout the rest of 2021 because of delinquent loan payments. The most likely scenario, the number of cases in the foreclosure process would shoot up by more than 100%, from the current level about 145 to roughly 336,000 in the second quarter of 2021. So basically they're saying we're going to see it. We're probably going to see it double. What else is going to happen? Let's take a quick look here. All right. So there's their chart. So you've got a best case blue line, middle case orange line, worst case gray line. So they're, of course, hedging their bet, saying we're going to see some opportunities in the foreclosure world here. People are going to be losing their homes. We think it'll be 300,000 and change by, Q3 2021. So I'm kind of going, how did they come to that number? What was the, impetus to get there? What are their calculations? I mean, ATTOM Data Solutions is a data company, clearly. How they figured this out, I have no idea, to be quite honest with you. And I don't think the number makes sense. I think it is a very, very low estimate on what will happen next year. However, I do want to say that as much as, I'm critical of the data, I'm going to give them props because they're actually saying we're going to see an increase. All right. Now, and if anybody would deny that, I think that would be probably foolish and clearly biased in whatever opinion they would have to make that statement. But the point is, we're going to see some increase in this type of activity. So we know it's going to happen, but now the debate's going to be just at what level and how much and how hard and how fast. All right. So, but again, for me, remember CoreLogic? They came out, A few videos ago I mentioned they're talking about seeing decreases in property values next year. Okay, that to me was a positive note for people like ourselves, whether you're looking to buy, invest, or looking to purchase a cheaper property. And now we're seeing what's happening here on the foreclosure side, that hey, the expectation is going to rise. Again, that's going to work in our benefit ultimately in the end. So should the foreclosure spike, the analysis projects the increase will likely hit hardest at the high end of the market, concentrated in the West, which currently has the smallest level of foreclosures in the nation. States projected to see the biggest jumps in foreclosure activity include California, Colorado, and Massachusetts, all the median home prices topping over $300K. So that's kind of interesting there. Projections, I guess you could say, it depends on various levels of delinquent loans and how the lenders pursue these things. A foreclosure surge would add another element of uncertainty to a housing market already looking at trouble in the form of price leveling off after 8 years of almost uncreasing increases. Data collected in May showed home values flat or beginning to drop in about half the country, with the biggest impact in the West. So again, expectations are the West is going to show more declines faster, and just because of, I'm sure, sheer volume and pricing points of where they're at now, we're going to see foreclosures hit those states a little quicker and a little harder. All right, let me take a look here. So this is the foreclosure projections by region, and you've got essentially Midwest, Northeast, South, and the West. So clearly, Q2, what we got going on now is not a heck of a lot. We basically see almost everything doubling, in size for Q2 2021. Excuse me. Clearly, we've got the South having a ton more. And again, the nature of the South, it's different down here. Not as expensive, but we also have lower cost labor, and people are more exposed to the shutdowns and job loss and things like that, I believe, down here with the type of industries, tourism, service industry, whatever. But anyway, the point is, expectations, every region across the country is going to see significant increase in foreclosure filings. All right, and activity. Let's take a look here. Topping the list of states with the biggest projected percentage increase are 14 states where filings would at least triple. Expectations are Colorado, Massachusetts would triple, 361%, 347%. California would jump about 277%. Michigan would rise about 287%, 288%, and Minnesota rise 287%. So, we're looking at some jumps there. States to I guess likely to escape with the least amount of damage, it would be Kentucky, Maryland. Maryland's funny. 48%, still significant, but I guess it's not into the multiple hundreds. New Mexico, 49%, Oklahoma 52%, Florida 65%. I gotta disagree with you here. Obviously in Florida we already have higher amounts of defaults. We're gonna get creamed down here in Florida. I can tell that right now, because again, I see the stats all the time through many different sources, and it's gonna hit hard in our location. So there you go. But again, this is a report, and this is someone's thinking about that. By region, the mid-level forecast shows foreclosure filings shooting up more than threefold in the West, more than double in the Northeast and Midwest in the second quarter. They would increase about 80% in the South. So again, South is hitting it hard. This to me is interesting, and I wanted to sort of talk about this. So the current potential surge could get delayed or tempered if Congress continues a moratorium on the most residential foreclosures or subsidizes homeowners who have fallen behind their mortgages. The moratorium, which affects federally insured home loans, set to expire end of August. The Congress is locked over how much more support the government should provide to financially strapped households. A huge package of aid to businesses, unemployed workers runs out in July. So yes, so here we are. We're August the 4th. Everything ran out end of July. The eviction moratorium is off. So I know that's causing some chaos, and I'll speak about that in a future video at this point in time. But again, the foreclosure moratorium stuff is still in until the end of the month in August here. So even if the worst predictions pan out, the impact would be milder than when 600,000 to 950,000 homes faced possible foreclosure from 2008 through late 2011. I think that's a small number. I think that there were more homes facing foreclosure in 2008 and 2000 through 2011. That's the major onslaught of the foreclosure process back in the last housing crisis. So again, the predictions would be milder than when 600,000 to just under a million homes face possible foreclosure, etc. So I put a little fact check thing there, as you can see, a little icon, just because I don't really know what they're talking about and where they got their numbers. Okay, so again, realize that at the end here it says whatever the thought projects that foreclosure activity will hit 336 homes in the second quarter of 2021, with numbers increasing in almost all 50 states and at least doubling in 34 states. So every state's going to have a foreclosure increase, filings, the whole bit. 34 states, so we're talking, more than 3/5 of the country will see their foreclosure rates double, just this time next year, basically. So that's a lot. That's a good amount that's coming through. I think it'll be way more. And here's the reason why. So that number, 600,000 and 950,000, I believe that's actually very low. And there was a website. The website was called hopenow.com, which I would look at often and follow. And what it did, Hope Now was kind of an aggregate website where it actually had statistics on a yearly and monthly basis of how many foreclosure filings were occurring, as well as how many, we'll call it workout plans, loan modifications, hemp, all these other things that were going on, to help people, stay in their home. Because again, if you read what the description is, it's Hope Now and its parent organization, the Housing Policy Council, announced the suspension of Hope Now's operations. Since its inception in 2007, Hope Now's primary approach to borrower assistance has been organizing and hosting large gatherings of consumers and servicers, an approach that is incompatible with the health risk posed by COVID-19. So I don't agree with that. The website really was a spot where you could get information via typically the website or calling a call center and being directed to what government programs you could find that could help you with loan, loss mitigation, loan modification, ways to keep your home and stuff like that. So loan solutions, essentially. So the big thing that they would produce on a annual basis, and they break it every year. Well, depending on where you are in the year, they break down the numbers. You could see what was going on, and there was I can tell you that over 10,000 homes had a foreclosure filing according to Hope Now, and then they break down how many of those went to auction, how many X number of homes had successful loan modifications, whatever. So funny enough, the site's offline now, so I can't go and check numbers anymore. And I looked through all my information on my computers. I never kept any reports. I never screenshot stuff because it was always there. I'd always just look at the most recent piece of information. So I find this kind of fishy, to be honest with you. That's why I said fact check that, because their primary approach was holding gatherings. Their primary approach was having people reach out to them via the phone, answering questions, and then putting them in touch with groups and organizations and their government offices and lender programs that could help people save their homes through loss mitigation, loan modification, things like that. So that's where I kind of go, why is this taken down? I don't know why. I never was aware of any of these large Hope Now gatherings, and I don't know. To me, again, I just think it's weird, and my flags are up, red flags are up when I see stuff like this going. We're just going to be entering into a lot of chaos the next little while, and now a good site that tracks it is no longer working, or it's been shut down. You see, so again, need I say more? I'm going to get my tinfoil hat made after the video here, and I'll be wearing it for the rest of the year, because I don't want people figuring out what my thoughts are on what's going on here, right? So not a conspiracy theory, but I just find we're going to start seeing things like that when they want to start hiding the numbers, because the numbers are going to start getting big, and things are going to start happening that again we can't control. We can't control the narrative, so just be fully aware of that. All right, seen it before. Okay. Let's go talk about forbearances. I'm going to bring this round circle now too, okay? So forbearances continue a steady descent. And what I mean by that is, every week since the pandemic hit and forbearances were made available by the government and the lenders, etc., whoever wanted to offer it to their client base, we've seen, people jump on that board, that opportunity. So again, forbearance is not forgiveness. It bases a temporary hold on your mortgage. You're going to have to pay it back at some point in time. How that plays out is going to be dependent on how you play out with respect to your income, your job situation, things like that. But the point I'm making here is that we're seeing the active people in forbearance slowly descend week by week. All right, so we have the total, which is probably just under about 8% now. This is as of the end of July, the week of July 20 to 26. I think overall we're 7.7% and change. The non-depositories are a little less. The depositories are a little higher. All right, but there's been a trend, and that's fine. But still, when we're talking about these numbers, right now, if you take a look at, July 31st, the latest data from McDash Flash Forbearance Tracker, that's a tongue twister right there, shows that the number of loans in forbearance fell by 17K this week, dropping the national forbearance rate to 7.7%, which equates to about 4.1 million loans that remain active in the forbearance as of July 28th. All right, so we got 4.1 million. So if you take a look at that, see, when I go to, and I'll show you some stats here. So when I look at that number as 4.1 million, and then I go, these are people who are not paying their mortgage and they're in forbearance. All right, so when I go to that and I go 4.1 million people not paying their loans right now, at any given right now, like that's the number. Okay, then I go back to the whole. Maybe we'll see 336,000 foreclosures going on this time next year. I think that's low based on the fact that we've got 4 million people here. So, if you just take blind, simple math here, 10%, if 10% of the people, in forbearance end up going into foreclosure, that's 410,000, why would we, that doesn't make sense. I really believe that more than 10% of the people who are in forbearance now are going to be in that foreclosure process. Now, I don't know whether they're looking at as a staging on when people get into forbearance, when they pop out, if they extend it, once they extend it, or they can loan mod, then when they actually hit, the loan mods, like how long that's going to play out before the foreclosure fine, hits if they don't get a loan mod. So I just think that's why I look at that number that ATTOM Data Solutions said, and I think that's a low number. I really do, because, knowing what happened last housing crisis, knowing that, again, this is 4.1 million people in forbearance, right? I'll show you some other numbers, because that doesn't mean there's only 4.1 million non-current loans. There's more non-current loans, but we're just talking about forbearance now. So let's take a look, okay? So let's go forward here. We can see how it's kind of leveled off now with respect to Fannie Mae, FHA, VA, and the other, which is your conventional loan styles. So, everything's kind of leveled off now. So we're kind of ebb and flowing. It's a couple of weeks are up, a couple of weeks are down. We're hovering that over 4 million mark here. This might be tough to read, but when you actually take a look at this this chart here, the delinquency. So this is where I don't quite get the numbers, because even though the forbearance does not appear on your credit report, or should not appear on your credit report, you're still going to be delinquent after 30 days. So we're going to see delinquencies increasing. We're not going to see foreclosure fines increase at this point in time yet. So we do see delinquencies rising over the past few months. So you take a look at April, May, and June. So that's as people entered into that's the green bar chart below. So as people entered into forbearance, they actually, the number of delinquencies increased, and obviously, the monthly changes, we're seeing, serious delinquency, 210%. Year-to-date change, monthly change is 148%. So we're seeing the delinquencies, which would seem to make sense. So everything's kind of playing out in how the numbers are working here. However, if you look at this chart here, the blue line is on the left. The chart that's on that line graph. The blue line is essentially the total number of people that have opted into the forbearance programs, which are 5.7 million or so. So realize that when we see that 4.1 million number, that's current people in the forbearance programs, but in total, there's been 5.7 million people that have been in. All right. Well, how does that break down? Well, you've got, about 1.2 million people or so that apparently, got into forbearance, but for whatever reason, they left the forbearance program and they're current on their loans. So people are going to come and go as, as their financial opportunity increases or decreases, right? So we have, lack of stimulus happening now, and at the end of July, we have a lot more potential, we'll call it, jobless claims, or people losing their jobs now, getting furloughed, second wave of the pandemic hitting, more shutdowns. So the job market hasn't been clear, and again, it's we were still every week we were seeing the claims going down less and less and less, but the claims are still over 1 million. And I think the last week we actually, so it was decreasing from the first major week that we had the 6 million claims. It's been decreasing, still over 1 million every week, by the way. And last time I looked at it, we actually had a slight uptick. So it was like 1,450,000 or something like that of initial jobless claims that were filed. And that was another increase. It's an increase as opposed to a decrease. So I don't know whether that's showing the fact that, hey, the lockdowns didn't work. People are losing their jobs again. We're having to re-lock down things. I don't know, but again, that's picking up. But if you look at the pie chart, a lot of, obviously almost half the people, their initial 3-month forbearance expired. They jump back into it. All right. Some people didn't renew, but they're going to default. So we're going to see a mixture of this. So I just want to point out that, it looks like the forbearance is a running total of active forbearance. It's not a total of who was in the program. And as we can see, there's going to be places where people are going to opt in or out based on their personal situation. So if you opt out of it for now and are current, does not mean that you're not going to have another financial situation that's going to put you back into, not paying your loan again and asking for another forbearance. So just please keep that in mind. So, all these people that have left forbearance, I don't see them as being out of the woods yet. I see them as, kind of like how loan modifications happened in the last housing crisis. People took loan modifications. They may have been great for a few months, but then guess what? They had financial issues or couldn't get out of what they had, and they re-defaulted. So, I'm saying there could be a chance that we'll see these numbers re-default as time goes on. Okay, this is all still pretty new to us. Now, this is a chart. It's a mortgage monitor, and this is important. And why it's important, because if I'm trying to figure out how many foreclosures we're going to have next year, all right, and what the numbers are going to be, we're going to have some starting this year because, stuff's already in play. Once the moratoriums go off, we're going to see a slew of those things hitting. But this really is kind of like your forbearance stuff, right? So let's take a look at this chart. If you go down to, see, I have the red circle there. I've circled the red. It's total non-current loans. It's 1.976 million. If you go to the left, that corresponds to the end of February of 2020. So end of February 2020, we had 1.96 million in I guess you could say, in non-current loans. And that month you actually had over 1 million people that were 30 days down. All right. So that sort of, increases slow, to May, 9.76 goes to 2. And then once April hit, we can see the numbers going, 3.6, 4.3, 4.2. Now, this is where I'm having some difficulty, because I look at it going, what were we doing in February? It was just business as usual. There was 1.976 million people in February who were non-current. Look at the amount of people that became 30 days non-current, over 1 million people. So when you take a look at that, to me, that is an unusual number, but the shutdowns in the pandemic and things didn't really take place until we were kind of in March towards April. So we saw a surge, and again, I could be off by a couple weeks here, but my point is, we had, so take us back to January. Okay, we still had, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's 1.95 million. So we had 1.95 million not current on their loans, all right? So that was going on before the pandemic, before the virus, before the shutdowns, before forbearance, and all those things. So so my point is, we've got 1.9 million sitting there prior to forbearance. All right. Now, if we're at 4.1 million forbearance now granted, this is, the end of June's numbers calculated. We don't have an end of July's yet, still too soon. But if we're at 4.2 million total of non-current, but I look at it going, well, we've got 4.1 million non-current in forbearance, and we're starting off with 2 million, almost 2 million, just under 2 million before coronavirus even hit us. So that's where I sort of go, we got to look at these numbers and say, well, I look at it going, we're going to have how much? Well, I think we're going to have, 6 million. I think we should be around 6 million non-current mortgages right now, because I'm taking the 1.9 million that we had prior to this all starting. And again, this is not sophisticated math, clearly, all right? But my point, though, is that was happening prior to all the stuff going on. So I'm taking 1.9 million, 1.95 million, and the 4.1 million, forbearance, and you give or take, we're roughly 6 million. We should be at 6 million non-current mortgages right now into July. All right. So even though some of this stuff has fallen off, with respect to, people maybe getting jobs back or getting financial help and they can pay their mortgages and rent and stuff like that, we're still looking at 4.1 million in forbearance. I guess the question is, what we don't know is, were those 1.9 million people, were they able to get forbearance as well? So are they included in the forbearance numbers or not? So I don't know. Maybe we're a blend. So I think maybe if we're not 6 million, we could be 5 million. All right, who knows? But again, this is the difficulty in predicting where numbers are going to go in the future, because we don't know. We just don't have the right numbers, okay? Or we don't know how the numbers are put together. So yeah, we can see the narrative as to, hey, things are leveling off with forbearance. That's great. But what's going to happen, I don't know. But for me, I believe that, we're going to see, I guess, in summary, a lot more foreclosures than predicted for next year. And we're going to see, a lot more, our total non-currents are going to hit higher than where they are as well, too. And that's just a prediction. That's because what we've seen before, where things are going, jobs, the whole bit. All right. But again, I'm looking at, not the 4 point, so I don't think, so in summary, I don't think 10% or less than 10% of everything that's non-current or in forbearance will equate to foreclosure sales. I think we'll see a significant amount more coming to us than what is predicted at this point in time. So anyway, Mortgage Monitor, just quick here. Yeah, I know we're going kind of long here, but again, starting at the left column is Mississippi with a non-current percentage of 12.5%. You can take a look at, and it's a sliding scale. It goes from top, down the three columns, from 12% non-current to, 4.4% for Idaho. Take a look at the year-over-year change. So we're still seeing for June that non-currents are increasing year over year, by 100%, 164%, 200%, 221%, 78%, 128%. Like, so again, every state is increasing by a significant amount from a year-over-year perspective. Clearly, the states like, maybe a Montana at 48% or 46%, whatever that is, they're not seeing the big numbers because there's not much going on there. And look at AL, which that would be Alabama, only year-over-year of 25.9%. So that's interesting there. Maybe they're not filing, they're not catching up. I don't know, but you can take a look at a lot of the states are significant with respect to having a triple-digit increase year-over-year in non-currents, which will lead to more delinquencies, which will lead to more foreclosure filings once everything is lifted. That's what's going to happen in the near term. All right, guys. So one thing too, I did listen to this is a little snippet from I guess a podcast that was out there. I just caught. It's only a minute here. I don't know if you can see this. I have a subscription to Bloomberg, so I can get this. I don't know if everybody else can get it as well too. But the point though is that Todd Tita, who is the Chief Product Officer of ATTOM Data Solutions, basically did a little interview, and they have about a minute and a half worth of summary, and this is the summary. Okay, COVID-19 hotspots could see a jump in foreclosure activity. We are very much watching the southeast part of the U.S., Florida, Georgia, Louisiana. We see distress there, both due to employment numbers as well as general market conditions on the real estate side. After a strong finish to the year, prices could soften in other markets as well. We are anticipating that some of the distress aspects that we are seeing are going to start rearing their heads, and the more pronounced areas of concern it will be in the Southeast, Nevada with the tourism component there, and Jersey, another market we keep an eye on. So, again, these are signs. These are basically people saying, "Hey guys, we see stuff hitting the fan in the next little while. It is go time as far as I'm concerned, and there will be a lot of activity happening in the next little while, and certainly next year." I would start preparing now and start getting knowledge base on all this. We've already got ourselves all set as to what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We're just waiting for some of the moratoriums to be lifted that we can start to market. But again, whether you're looking to invest, whether you're looking to buy a primary home, there should be more homes available to us as these foreclosures, kind of come out. There's still going to be some issues surrounding that, which I'll talk about in another video. Also, which I did not mention earlier, I always forget stuff, guys. I do apologize. I'm doing a Facebook Live this Thursday, the 6th of August, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So go to my Facebook page. It's called Housing Bubble 2, Housing Bubble 2.0. Just like it or follow it. And at 7 o'clock, I'm going to go live. So I'm going to do a presentation that's going to get more into some of this stuff right here as to how it's going to play out, what to look forward to, what to look out for, etc. And where, how and why and where you can participate to get yourself good deals on real estate, whether it's primary residence, second home, vacation homes, or investment property. So good stuff will be talked about that evening. For those of you who go, I don't have a Facebook account. It doesn't cost you anything if you want the information. This is, I'm 42 minutes right now on this video, which is long. And, when I do my Facebook Live, they're typically an hour to 2 hours with a lot of information and live Q&A. So that's why I don't do it on YouTube, just because, I have, some Facebook pages already made and Facebook subscribers, etc. So it just seems to work better on there. So that's the scoop. So anyway, having said that, thank you for your attention today. A longer video, I do apologize, but again, lots to catch up on, lots going on now. Want to reach out to me, Randy@luxuryshortsales.com. Send me a email, put your phone in there. I know some people I didn't get to on the weekend. I got to give some people a call back. So whether you're looking to purchase in our area for investment, I got a turnkey real estate system that I can help you guys find great rental properties and things like that. Whether you want to buy primary residence, just buy homes here, support, or looking for other locations, I can help you as well too. Just drop me a line and we can talk. And whether you'd like some additional training in what short sales, distressed properties, whatever, drop me a line as well too. That's where this market's going to go. That's where the inventory is going to be for us to get our hands on properties before the other people do as this all unwinds. So again, guys, appreciate the views, likes, comments. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Share the video with your friends and family. And we'll look forward to talking to you a little bit later on. Thank you.